We have been able to set up our Deno server in order to track a user from Tracker.gg. Do not forget to come over to Tracker.gg and go to documentation. And over there on your dashboard, you can create an app. So I created an app I'm going to use, and that's the Deno Tracker app that we are currently making use of, so that you can have access to your own code to track together with us in this video. It's downloading. So right now you can see some, I tracked this user in one of the videos, I guess, and also track this user. So that's how we have been actually getting users to track, and you can see the working project. Right now we want to switch over to the view aspect of this. So before you continue to watch, do not forget to hit the like button and also the subscribe button. So in my project folder, I already initialized a Vue.js project. So I just use the Vue create. Then I put this what is it called again? The dots or the period. I put it on the current folder because I want it to be created on this current folder. So when you just list this, you can see the dependencies installed and also all the files that we are needing for the working of this video. So right now, let me go ahead and open this on my Visual Studio Code. I'm going to close something I opened earlier. I'm just going to click that. So we're going to touch some couple of CSS. If you can see the already made project, you can see that everything is typed properly and it's kind of responsive, that it can even size up on a small device. So it's going to also touch that part. I know that on my channel I've not touched anything concerning CSS, but this video is going to also teach you a little bit about CSS and also how to use Vue.js to make a request to a third-party website or even your own server. So, and also here you can see we have something that alerts at the right. I'm going to show you that as well. So let's get ahead to work. So in the current folder right now, I'm going to create a file here called styles.css because we are going to be defining some global CSS variable, because also some CSS that we're going to be using are going to be on the components itself, scoped together with components, because Vue.js have the feature of scoping in CSS to a particular component. But for the ones that we are going to be using generally, I'm going to be defining that on the style.css. So right now, let me go ahead and put them down. So we want to remove every padding. So I think I have to remove one S here because this seems not to be working properly. I have to remove the margin as well. So I'm going to be using this what do I call it? These recommendations you see coming out because I have I think Emmet installed. So I suggest you have that installed as well. That's going to be recommending most of these for you. So I have to define the primary color. So it's gonna be white. Then right here I have to sorry, I have to define my own container. My own container is just going to be a little bit different from the Bootstrap container because we are still going to be making use of Bootstrap over here. I have to define the width to be 100%. I also have to define the padding top to be 2M. So these are just the global CSS that we're going to be making use of. Then okay, for now let me just leave the media width and go over to the link. I want every link to be a color of white and have no text decoration. I also have to remove the list style of every single list. I have to set that to none. So I also have to define the header. It's kind of confusing me as if I'm using React Native. So I have to align every item to the center, justify every content as well to the center, give a flex direction of column, and also give a margin bottom of 1M. So you're going to understand the CSS shortly, but for now let me just go ahead and finish defining every CSS. So for right now I'm going to stop here. We are going to create some couple of components right away, but before we create those components, there are some couple dependencies that we have to install in our Vue.js application. So what I have to do now is to install, the first one is the Axios for making a request. We have also to install the view router. We also have to install the view toasted because we want to allow the user anytime the user did not put anything down. Just like you can see on the right side here, you can see all these things that is alerted on the right side. So let's just give this a couple of seconds. While this is creating, we have to now create those components that we need. So I'm just going to just give me a couple of seconds, guys. So we're going to create some components right away. In the project folder, I'm going to get rid of this file. So the files I have to create right now, the first one is, make sure you create that on the components folder. The first one is called the gamer.view. Second one is called the header. Third one is the search.view. So I have something installed called Vtor. So make sure you have it installed because it's going to make your Visual Studio Code to accept Vue.js code and also to recognize that. So it's called Vtor. Make sure you come over here and search for Vtor. Then you can just install that. Installing everything here. So if you can notice, we installed the view router. Let me go over to the dependencies. If you install the view router, we are going to be defining our own view router. So the way we can do that is to come over to the source folder. The source folder, we have to create a file called router.js. Now this router.js is where we are going to be. Sorry guys for that. So we are going to be defining our routes. So it's just a very simple something. We have to import the view. I like to do this manually because it will really help you to have access to everything you want to have access properly. So we have to import the router from the view router. Now, whenever you are defining a route, you have to define it via a component. So I have to define, the first one is going to be for the search. I have to import search from. So if you could remember, we just created a search file. I also have to import gamer. So guys, sorry for that little noise, cars just moving ahead. I have to import the gamer as well. So why you see this squiggly red line under it is because inside these components we've not actually exported this. So I just have to come here and use this method. Then I can just, or I can just name it to search. So when I save that, let's go over here. Shortly this is going to get out. And also let me go over to the gamer, do as well everything I did. So I have to just put down the script. It's going to export the name of gamer. And lastly, for the header, I have to just come over here, put on the template, and mind you, you have to make sure I put on the head one. And I can just give it a name of header. So it all depends on the name you want to give it. The caps does not actually matter, but just give it a name that follows the same thing with the name of the file. So I'm just going to save this and also save this one. Beneath that, I have to just make use of the view router itself. So we're going to use the view.use and we can pass the router variable there. So I have to export this as a default value of new router. Now, new router is going to accept an object. So the first one we want to use a mode of history. And we have to now specify our routes. So our routes are going to be an array that is going to have each route. So the first one is going to accept a path. So this history, let me just make this properly. It's going to accept a path of home page. So the home page is going to link us to the search component, and also we have to bring down the component which is going to be the search. So you have to be very careful here because this search you can see here is because we imported it at the top here. So why you see all this squiggly red line under it is because we are working with Deno, and Deno is what will I call it, or Deno plugin or whatsoever, kind of have this bad attitude of having this red line under my codes. So I just observed that, but just put that aside and just focus on what we are doing mainly. So if we have any error, we are still going to fix that, but kind of follow my explanations and you will really understand what I'm doing. So we now have to define a second route. I just have to copy this and paste that. So we want that whenever you go to player slash platform slash player, then you have to make use of this component called gamer, and that's where we have to bring down the component. So that's it for defining our routes. In our app.js, we have to now delete everything we see here and make it properly ourselves. So I'm just going to come at the top here. I'm going to remove this component, this hello world component, and also I'm going to clear all these styles you see here. So I'm just going to leave the style the way it is. And also for these ones, we have to wrap everything now in the M container that we defined at the styles.css. Then I can now wrap this. I'm going to create a CSS class called player body. We are going to create it on the same components, copy together with this component. Okay, most of the CSS we are going to add here are still going to be some global CSS. So we are not going to scope it for this component exactly. We are just going to leave it the way it is. So guys, sorry for that little noise. So we have to now use the router view because we are making use of our routes. So we've really did a lot of things. Right now, let's go ahead and run our application and see the outcome of what we've done. So I'm just going to use the npm run serve. So when this is done running, then we can continue. Right now, our application is running, and let's go ahead and run that on our browser. So on our browser, when we run that, we are going to see an empty screen. That is because in our project folder, let's go over to the main.js file. So in the main.js file is now where we are going to make use of this router we defined in our router.js. So the first thing I want to do here is to import router from router. And also I'm going to make use of the tools we just imported. We're going to make use of the let me just import it first before we can make use of it. It's called view toasted. From the view toasted. And lastly, we now have to load toast plugin. Now the toast plugin is going to make use of the view toasted, and we have to give it an icon pack. We want to make use of the icon pack of font awesome. So we can just make that to look nice. And also down here, we can now pass our router. And then we can save our application and refresh. So let's check in our browser. And you can see we have an error because in our application, they say it requires exactly one root element. That is because whenever you define a component, you need to make sure you add something into the template tags. So I just have to name this gamer for now. And also one more thing, we have to come to the search. Okay, we have already done that. So let's refresh. Let's come over to our router.js file, and I didn't add s here, and that was a problem. Let's check back in our browser. You can see that we have the file running now, and you can see that our router is working. So that's how we can set up a simple router with Vue.js. So I imported some couple of files that we're going to be making use of, especially the image files. So let me just show you guys. So these are the images that we're going to be making use of: the Deno image, the Apex Legend image. Go over to our app.js. I'm going to be putting some styles over here, but I'm not going to spend time typing that. We can come over to the repo. I'm going to make this repo available for you on GitHub. Then you can have access to everything that we did. I'm just going to paste that inside here. So and save it. First, I have to get rid of this line of CSS because we don't have the file. I just have to save that. So let's save and check our application. You can see that shadow that we have in the normal application. Let me just show you the normal application so that you can understand what I'm saying. So you can see there's a little bit of shadow here, but not actually showing because of the background image. So, but you can see right now we have something that is tied, and you can see that we are progressing gradually. So I want it that whenever our application opens, we make use of the background image, which is exactly this bg.png. The way I can do that is to use a lifecycle hooks code mounted on Vue.js. So we just have to reference the mounted. So we have to make sure that the document.body.className has this class name of body image 1. So that's exactly what you see here, body image 1. So let's save that, and you can see our background image has been applied. One more thing that we need to add to our application is to come over to the index.js file. We need to make sure that the CSS that we are using globally is applied on our application. So don't forget to do that. So the way we can do that is just simply in the index.html. All I have to do is to come here. So I have to type down a link style sheet that is going to accept a style sheet. And we have to make reference to that CSS. But first, let me just close this. So over here, we are making use of exactly this base URL. So let me just grab that line of code and paste it here. Remove this one. And we are making use of the styles.css. So let's save that, and we can now make use of the CSS that we applied globally on our application. We have to add exactly what you see here. I'm going to check the already made app. We want to add exactly what you see here, which is a very simple thing for us to do. So I'm just going to. So here we have a header. We change this to Deno, and I'm going to add a span inside the header one. And the span is going to be a Vue.js. And lastly, we have to close the span. I can say application. So beneath that, I have to add a div with a class name of image container, because it's where all those images that you see at the top are wrapped, and each of those images is going to have a class of image house. And when I'm going to spend time styling this, I'm just going to put the HTML down, but I really want you to have a little bit of understanding of how I came across with the design. So the source itself is going to be an image. So, and also this tutorial is going to show you how you can apply CSS style with Vue.js and also make use of Vue.js properly. So these are going to be 3 things. The first one is the image. The second one is the Apex image as well. The third one is the Vue.js image. So I'm going to change this to Apex. And also this one, I'm going to change this one to Apex, not actually Vue. So whenever we want to make use of an image, I use this because I'm binding it to a variables that I want to put down below at the data lifecycle. So after the header, we have to define the data. The data is going to be a function that is going to return an object. The first one we have to do now is to bring down our image, which is going to come from the access folder. And we have to bring in the deno.png. So these files, like I said earlier, I have these files added here, so I'm going to make it available for you on the GitHub repo so that you can have access to it. So Apex as well, we have to require, I can spell again. So guys, don't forget to hit the like button and also the subscribe button, and also the view we have to require, which is going to be coming from the assets and the logo.png. So the logo, I'm just making use of the default Vue.js logo. So even if you save that, it's not going to work because we've not actually applied it to the search components. So applying that, we have to come over to the search component and we have to import that manually. So I have to import header from, I have to go back. Okay, we are on the same folder level. I just have to, beneath that, I have to bring that the component lifecycle. I think, okay, it's not a lifecycle actually, but can be that component. Then here I can just clear that and wrap this in a div. Let me format that to look properly nice. Then I can just wrap this in a header. So it says header cannot resolve logo.png. So inside our header, we couldn't resolve logo.png form. So I think I must have spelled something wrongly. So like I said, I did something wrong here. So in the header, we have to go to the assets folder. There we can import that. And you can see everything now is imported. That's because I added the slash before the at symbol, where you can see our application now have the images. Let me go ahead and style my CSS for the header itself, because I really want you to also understand how we can scope a CSS to a particular file. So beneath the script, I'm just going to bring down the style tag. Now the style tag over here, all you just have to do simply is to pass scoped to it. So whenever you pass a scoped, means that you want it to be exactly used on this component. So it's not going to go outside of this component. It's not going to be used globally. Just like this one, this is just like an example of a global CSS. And the same thing that we did here is the same thing that we did on styles.css. But just get the difference is just that this one is on the file separately, but this one is on our app, because whenever our application launches, it always have to make use of the app.vue.js. So in the header, I'm just going to make reference to the image container. So in image container is where I want to give it a margin top of 1em. I have to give it a padding of 0.5em, and also give it a margin bottom of 1em as well. I have to give it a background color of white. We'll scroll up a little bit. Display everything there, flex. Now I have to give it a flex direction of row. So let me just show you. Everything inside here is just the image house, so I have to make this to go scroll to the something like flow to the right. I want it to be on a horizontal line, so that's why you can see this flex and also flex direction row. Now let's go ahead and style the individual image house. So the next ones, I'm just going to grab the CSS and put this down, but I just wanted to have a little bit of understanding of how to use the Vue.js CSS. And also imagine right of 1em. Then the image itself, whenever we want the image to take the full size of our container, all we just have to do is to give the parent housing of the image, which is the image house. We give it a width and a height, a specified width and a height, either with grid or just manually defining with the pixels. Then we can come over here and add a width of 100% and a height of 100%. Header 1, we have to give it a color of 0. The header ones are exactly what you see here, all these things you see right here. Then we can give it a font weight of 900, because I want it to be a little bit bolder. We can transform the text to uppercase, or let me just use capitalize, or in case maybe let's just use uppercase because I want everything to be up caps. Then for the span inside the header 1 of the title here, for the span itself, so I can just give it a color. I want it to be a little bit different of RGB of 11:22:11. And lastly, we have to give this a media screen size. So the media screen size is gonna be something like a breakpoint. So we want to add maximum width of 1024 pixels. We just want the header, we want to change it or reduce the font size to like 20 pixels. And lastly, you can specify a height on 1024 pixels. So why you see this height on 1024 pixels is that whenever we are beneath this, I don't want to show these other images. So the way we can use that is to add these classes on the images that we don't want it to show on. Height on 1024 pixels. Just gonna grab that line of code, just gonna come down here and paste that application. So since I'm not doing a CSS crash course, I just have to go straight to the point because I don't want the video to have a little bit of longing or have to delay a little bit. We already like 29 minutes, so I just want the video to finish fast. So let's go over to the search.view. So I'm going to close all these files. In the search.view, we have to start bringing in the things that we need. So the first one is to make sure that we have this form right here. So let me kind of show you. Let me close all these tabs. Or the form we have right here. So you can see this form we have right here. So I'm just going to grab that from the source code. I'm not going to waste time on that. I'm just going to grab from the template. I'm going to come down here and just stop. I'm going to paste that down here. So let me save that and refresh. So you can see we have this little form input and also the select drop down. So for us to style that is to grab exactly the styles from the scope CSS down here. I'm just going to grab that because I don't want to waste time again since I'm not doing a HTML or CSS crash course. So let's save that and let's see the result we have. So you can see that it kind of showed that we still need to bring in a global CSS. So the global CSS that we didn't bring in happens to be on our styles.css. So I just have to grab that as well. So I just grab that and paste that. You can see the player main info and all the info styles and all the classes that we need for our styles. So you can see here, that's how we now have this beautiful form input and also this beautiful page you can see right there. So there are some couple things we have to bring in, define, not actually bring in. So we have to return. The first one is going to be the platform. And I'm going to, for now, let me just leave it. And the second one is going to be the player. So for the platform itself, I want the default value of this to be the PlayStation. So if you come over to this select drop down, you can see the values of this. So the values of this are bind together with this. You can see on the data. So I'm just going to select the one I need. I want the default one to be XPL. So let me not just use PSN. I want you to really have understanding. So when I did that and save, you can see that we have exports active. So whenever our application opens, we have this exports active. So that's how we can make use of that. So let's go ahead and create a bind method that we are using with our form. So in our form here, we use the v on submit. We want to prevent the default action of a form. Then we can bind it together with the method that we want to bind. So I created a search method. So in your search method is just a simple search method that is going to be making a synchronous request to our application backend, which is actually the Deno backend. So I will have to check if there is a player. So the player is bound together with the V model. So whenever we type anything in the input of this V model, or whenever we select anything also on the platform, it's going to bind it together with this V model on the variables given, and that's the variables coming from the data. So this is exactly like the React state, something like that. So if you have an idea of the React state, you are going to understand what I just did. So we are making this to be on search. So whenever we find a user, all we just have to simply do is to route that user, push that user to, we're going to use backticks here, player. So this player slash this.platform, as well this dot player. So what this actually means is going to move into the gamer component, and this route here you can see is exactly the route that we define on our router.js file. So you can see player, the platform, and also the player name. So that's why I opened this on the right side so that you can see it. Right now I'm going to close it so that we can have full space to work with. So whenever we have a player, it's going to route together and move forward. But in the case we don't have a player, we are not going to use our view toasted, which is going to allow the user that he or she did not post a did not put anything. So we have to tell the user to enter a player ID, and also we have to put some configuration, which is the duration we want this to stay. I can actually set this to 5 seconds, which is 5,000 milliseconds. And also the icon, remember that we are using the font icon, font awesome icon, which is the exclamation circle I'm referring to. So we are using the font awesome icon. When you go over to font awesome, you can see a lot of icons. You can just grab the name and put here. You can make use of that tools plugin. So let's go ahead and test run what we've done so far. So I'm going to just close this folder, or these tabs, not folder actually. So let's go back and refresh. So when I click on this, if the user happens to not put anything on the gamer tag or the player ID, we get that alert on the right side that is going to show us that we should please enter a player ID. So in the case that the player ID is available, we will now move into the gamer component. So let me just put an existing user. I'm just going to put my name for now. So right now you can see in the gamer component, we can now move together and come into that current component. Right now in the gamer component, I'm not going to waste much time again because I really want this to end fast. So what I have to do is to come over to the repo. I'm making this available for you in the public so you can have access to it. So I can go over to my source, come to gamers. So I'm going to grab everything there, except everything the template, except for the logic and also for the Axios request. I'm just going to grab everything else. I'm just going to paste this here. So what you see here actually is what you see on the Postman. Let me show you. So on the Postman, whenever we make a request, we are going to return the data, and the data is going to return some couple of objects inside of the object data. So we have the platform info, the user info, we have the segments. So those things are the things that we are simply referring to. So you can see the player profile is going to come from, let me just show you. The player profile is going to come from, let me kind of search for the player profile. So this is kind of huge. We may not actually find it now, but I'm going to console.log that and show you that through the console. So let me just forget about this for now. And I give it a logic that except for this exists, don't show. So right now you can see that we also handle the error part of this. In case that the user does not exist, we have to show the error. Also, we have to show something like a spinner icon that is going to show whenever the user is being searched for. So right now, let's go over to the bottom. The bottom part of this is going to be where we are going to be handling our Axios request and also catching the request values with a promise. So the first thing I have to do right now is to bring in our data. So the data is going to return an object that is going to set the loading by default to false. So if I happen to set this loading to true, let me show you what's going to happen right now. You can see this little spinner icon that is just spinning. So that's for the loading. And we have to set the error to null by default because we do not have any error whenever our application opens. But let me reset this to false. And lastly, we have to set the player profile. The player profile is going to be null by default. So the player profile is exactly what you see here. Over here, we are using the if to bind this together. So this is only going to show if the player exists. So in the case that the player does not exist, then our app needs to terminate. So beneath that, we need to use the lifecycle hooks called, or the lifecycle method called created. But because we're going to be making returning a promise whenever we make a request and also making an asynchronous request, we have to use async. But first, we have to make sure that the loading is set to true. That is, whenever it's created, to show us that the user is loading at first. And we have to use the try catch. Now in the try block, all I just have to do is to get the game response. So I'm just going to set this to game response, which is going to use the await axios.get API. Let me just make that request to API / version1 / player / this dots route params. So we are grabbing this from our URL, and as well, I'm just going to copy exactly this because I don't want to waste time with that. I'm just going to paste that. Oh, you didn't copy exactly. Okay, let's just quickly type it down. And I want to get also the player. This route params for player. This route params okay, I think platform, yeah. So that's how we can grab those values. So we are actually making a request to API / version1 / player / the platform and also the player itself. Then we can just add the Deno folder. So I'm just going to quickly add the Deno tracker. Now in the Deno tracker, we define the routes. We define the routes here. So you can see we define a route called, and let me just open this to the right so that you can see it together. We define a route called API / version1 player, the platform, and also the player. And that's exactly what you see here, the platform and also the player. So beneath that, we have to get some things from the game response if that happens to be successful. So the first thing we have to grab is data, and the data is coming from, let's check the postman once more. So the postman says the data, you can see in the data we have data. So this data actually, the first data actually is going to come from our Deno backend, which is going to return a data for us from here. So I'm just going to use the structuring once more and get the data. So let's check this properly. So you can see that whenever this happens to be okay, we just have to send back that user, and we can use the structuring and grab that user. So beneath that, whenever the user happens to load properly, all you just have to do is to set the player profile to the data that is sent back, and also we can set the loading back to false. So that's going to totally remove the loading spinner icon. So let's kind of check. It says Axios is not defined, of course, because we didn't import Axios. So I just have to quickly import Axios from Axios. Right now, let's save. And one thing is because we don't have a catch block. So for the catch block, it's going to set the loading back to false because we do have an error and actually it's not loading. And we now have to grab the error and set it to, so I'm just going to add player.error.response.data. Then that's it. And also one thing again is, okay, we don't actually need to set this, but For now, I think we are done with setting our application. So it says cannot get player Samuel. I think we are making a request, and let me just search for it. KY47. So right now we cannot actually get this, at least because there's something we did add whenever we are using a Vue.js. So for you to make a request with Vue.js to maybe let's say on the same localhost machine, there is something you need to add, something that you need to inject into the webpack. It's just similar to when you're using React.js. So in the root folder, you have to create a file called vue.config.js. So the vue.config.js is going to export by default. It's going to export an object. It's going to export a dev server. Now in the dev server, we have to set up a proxy. So this proxy is going to set the link that we want to be proxying to. We want to set that, and we want to set a target as well. So we want that to be routing to localhost 5000. So that's why we are not able to make that request. So let's go ahead and review the application. So guys, do not forget to hit the like button and also the subscribe button. In case you don't like my English, I will just play with you. Please bear with me. So let's refresh this. The error kind of, it says cannot property, blah blah blah. Okay, we have the wrong guy, which is K. Okay, we send the wrong guys. So we send the wrong values, and that's because here I'm sending the platform and also the player. And right here I'm sending the player and the player, which is the wrong thing I did. So this happens to be the platform. So let's save that, and I'm going to search for KY47. So actually it's working. Just make sure on your Vue.js config file, after you did put this, you can just quickly restart your server. So you can just quickly terminate your running server, and then you can run npm run server once more. And then when it's done, you can just simply come back. When it's done compiling, you can just simply come back and search the user again. So I'm going to search for that same user, KY47, and I can select, I think it's in origin, and you can see the user does exist. So let's go ahead and search for other users. We have a phone FPS. We have this guy over here. I'm just gonna click on him, and I'm gonna grab his username. He happens to be on the PlayStation, so we can just go back, paste that, and search for that user. So we are gonna get the user stats. As you can see here, the player username and also the user stats, which is just very few. And let's go ahead and search for one more user before we stop. Let's go to leaderboards. So we can search for Doru, happens to be on origin. So I'm not a big fan of all these games, but you can see that we can work with these guys. So you can see same user and same details. So we've really come to the end of this video, and it has really shown us how we can use Deno, the new guy in town, to actually make a post request to other third-party API, and also make a post request from our Vue.js application to our Deno application, and also applying Vue.js styles, and also using Vue.js components, and also even using the Vue.js routes. So do make sure you hit the like button and also the subscribe button, and do not forget to like the video once more. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.